position we have Team HMC, and in opposition we have Team 92. The motion reads, this House supports Vietnam taking English as an official second language. And the chair for today, and in order to start this debate, we'd like to invite the first speaker of opposition. In here.
Hello everyone, judges and viewers. I am Rahan and I am the first speaker of the proposition team. And firstly, I want to define what is English in general. It's a global language that helps connect cultures and differences together. If not for English, I wouldn't be standing here debating against your house. English is key for communicating and connection. After my arguments, Ming Cho, who is the second speaker, will evaluate my ideas and rebut you. But lastly, Coleman will be rebutting and summarizing our house arguments. Now, I would like to protect our arguments. English is effective communication between countries. The impact of English on several countries was outstanding. They increased the chances of our country to be able to fully develop into a strong economic and education-driven country. Also, it helped us to be able to communicate easily throughout our country. It would help us even more in political and technological growth and change our country into a fully developed country. But I would like to go more into details about the means of communication. Countries that have taken English, such as their second language, have been thriving. For a very specific example, Singapore. They could now communicate with other countries like Britain, America, and other more. English provides a wide range of platforms to develop on, like education, economics, which Ming Chong will talk about later, or even to advertise our country's culture. Vietnam is a wonderful country, ladies and gentlemen. Our culture is different with many heritages and traditions. And with our understanding of English, we could push Vietnam into one of the 5 continent powerhouse. That would take our country to the next level. And that is the reason why we should all support Vietnam in taking English as an official second language. Thank you very much.
I thank the president of the opposition team. In order to open the debate of opposition, I would like to invite the first speaker of opposition to the podium.
I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Hello, judges and fellow debaters. Good afternoon. I am the first speaker of the opposition team, and I'm here today to counteract the motion that supporting Vietnam taking English as an official second language. First, I would like to rebut the point. Bringing Vietnam to one of the top 5 countries in the continent will have its fair share of benefits, but it will also kind of make Vietnam lose its cultural difference between the other countries, because As the country become more developed and famous, more tourists will come into the country, and they will moving on. Today we have three main points. Our first point is that English is a very difficult language to learn. Our second point is that if we include English as our official second language, we will lose balance in our native language, which is Vietnamese. And the third point is that we will have too many students and not enough teachers who are qualified to teach English. And we will also include our policy on another plan of action to replace English as a second language. First, I will go into our first point, which is that English is a difficult language to learn. The main reason is because between English and Vietnamese, there are so many differences. English is very tough for Vietnamese because we're not in an English-speaking environment, making learning very hard because they don't have anyone to communicate with other than the educators or supposedly peers who are also learning in the same class. Learning English is also very different from Vietnamese because in Vietnam there are many accents and many extra characters.
So I think that in both Vietnamese and English, there are both many accents. So you can't compare two very similar things in general.
For example, two words in English, if you mess up the accent, then you can still make out the word. But in Vietnam, if you mess up the accent, it turns the word into another word. For example, canh and cánh, that's an accent. Canh means soup and cánh means wings. So if you completely mess up the meaning of the word. And also, many words in English means the same thing. For example, see and watch. However, it's not always possible to swap the words. For example, it's alright to say watch a film or see a film or watch TV, but you should never say see television. It does not make sense. This can be quite confusing for the new English learners. To make things more complicated, you are not a watcher when you watch television or a film, but rather a viewer. So it further adds on to a point as language is a difficult language to learn. So instead of implying English as an official second language for Vietnam, I think the Vietnamese government should have their citizens learn a second language, but doesn't necessarily have to be English, because each person has a different plan, and they might go to countries where English is not as prominent. For example, Mandarin. Many Vietnamese people would like to go to America, to China to learn and study, or even to work. So, in China, English is not as prominent as Mandarin, obviously, because Mandarin is the main language there. So learning Mandarin is an excellent idea because it is such a prized skill set for the business sector and one of the extremely important languages in the world. For example, the executive officer of Facebook, and Kevin Rudd, the former politician, both learned Mandarin, and they are very successful human beings. Thank you for listening.
I think the first speaker is not position, and I'd like to invite the second speaker to come.
Imagine what we're trying to tell you, is that English should be uh, Vietnam's official second language for various reasons. So, as stated by my previous speaker, Dahan, you can see that English can help to exchange, culture. I would like to start with some rebuttals of the opposing team. So, first of all, they said that if we take English as the second official language, then we will lose culture. But that's not really the case, because what we're trying to do is to share our own culture to the rest of the world. Does that mean losing our culture? I don't really think so. The next point that they stated is that English is a very difficult language to learn. But that, number one, is subjective, so that is your own opinion. And number two, it is impossible to compare a language, how difficult a language is, to another, because they're so different. They've also said that we are not native speakers, so that's why English is so hard to learn. But think about this. English consists of many different languages together. Like, in fact, do you know that the word kindergarten is actually based on a German word? Well, that's surprising, right? Because if that is the case, then nobody is really a native language. There are only just languages, and we're just trying to learn them. So you've also said that maybe we can use a different language as a official language, an official second language. But we say that English, since it's the most widely spoken language in the world, it should be used because it can guarantee that more opportunities will come. And this is what I mean by opportunity. My point is that if Vietnam can take language as its second official language, then it can have drastic it can have increasing economic growth. Take a look at the Philippines, right? So it uses English as its official language since 1987. And guess what? After 1987, it experienced a dynamic growth. And don't take my words, take the World Bank Organization word for it. Now, what the Philippines has done after they've taken English as its official second language is they've sent 2.2 million people to work abroad, and those 2.2 million people would use English as their language to communicate with others, and that can bring Philippines a dynamic economic growth. And also they use tourism. Imagine if the Philippines only use their own language, for example, then the signs would be in their own language and nobody could understand. And by doing so, they are creating a change. And this can change an entire country's faith. And take a look at Vietnam. Our working age population in 2019 is 48.9 million people. So that's nearly a half of the whole country's population. And if we can do the same thing that Philippines does, using English as our official second language, we can create change. We can send these people to work abroad, and then we can fulfill the hope of being a developed country by 2050. And this can also help us to, express our culture like my previous speaker has stated, but it also can help us to use our resources. Vietnam has beautiful, beautiful beaches and natural surroundings. So why not take that advantage and create a change? And that can be done by using English as its official second language. Now, the second thing that I want to add is education. Now, as we all know, education can change everyone's entire path. And English is taught by almost all schools in Singapore and the Philippines. And this does two things, alright? So number one, it attracts attention from global students, and they would want to come to study in a foreign country like Singapore and the Philippines, which causes economic growth. And it also promotes a lot of choices for higher education. Like, for example, those people want to go abroad to study and to work, and they can use English. And in fact, I have an evidence for you. In the 19th century, Japan was facing risk of becoming a colony of many Western countries. But guess what they did? Meiji made it so that people can go abroad, and that really creates a big difference, and that stops Japan from becoming a colonized country. So all of these reasons all sum up and support the idea that Vietnam really should take English as its second official language. And thank you very much.
I thank the second speaker of opposition and would like to invite the second speaker of opposition. Thank you.
I will begin my speech in 3, 2, 1. Hello everyone, I am the deputy leader of the opposition team, here to disagree with our motion today. And I am going to I'm going to support our team's line of argument further. But before that, I would like to retaliate at your opponent's argument. Firstly, you use an example of alien language and comparing, you're saying that if you don't know that alien language, you won't be able to communicate with them. But what you're trying to say here, what you're passively trying to say is that when you learn English, you know how to, you can communicate with more people. But not every company want their employees to learn English. They have other languages too. And you also said that learning English will help develop Vietnam's economy. But to us, learning English is fine, but if you learn other languages, and if the government lets you learn more languages, and what we're trying to say, our course of action, what we're trying to say here is that let the people decide what language they want, then you can become a multi-diverse country. Of course, a lot of people are still going to choose English, and the economy is going to boost. But a lot of people are going to choose other languages too, so that could also boost your economy in different ways, yes.
So we are not saying that we should only take English as a official second language. So what do you mean by taking other languages while this is only about taking English as a second official language?
Thank you for your question. I will answer that later because that will also be the part of my speech, but please let me go into my point. Our second point is that you lose your balance in your native language. So you learn language contextually, and as an infant, you absorb all the languages of your native language in a rich situation, and this is called a multisensory content. For example, you learn the word dinner or lunch at a certain time of day when you're sitting at the table. And this process becomes so ingrained in your mind that you use it instinctively. It's less of a case of think before you speak, but it's actually thinking as you speak. And if you've learned a second language, you know that you may have a troublesome effect, and you lose your balance in your native language. Even in the early stage of learning new language, your native language can become to feel rusty, and this is called a linguistic phenomenon. This is when bilingual or even multilingual people have difficulties expressing their emotions or ideas without having to switch in between the two languages. We have an example of, ex-American lawyer Dan McName. He firsthand experienced this linguistic phenomenon. He wouldn't say he's fluent in French, but he said he lost some of his native language. Same goes for Fiona, who's currently a wedding planner in Mexico. She says that when she's learning, she finds it hard to recall some of the phrases she's learned her entire life. And for your question earlier, you're saying that you're not suggesting that English should be the only language, but you're suggesting that we should improve English, correct? So this is what we're not gonna go on.
Well, you're saying that if we take English, then people will lose their diversity. A country will lose its diversity. But look at Singapore. It took its second official language. It's English, right? There's still a lot of diversity. So what do you have to say about that?
As I said earlier, you cannot compare two languages together, and so you cannot compare two nations together. We are different from Singapore's.
Yeah.
As I said, we're different from Singapore's. We're different from Philippines. We have different way of doing it. We have different ways of structuring our society. So you cannot compare two nations together. It can only work for one nation or the other. And for your example, as we said earlier, our course of action is that we're not gonna force them to learn English. They can learn English as their second language, but we're gonna give them variety. So they can pick their not favorite language, but language that could benefit them the most. For example, my leader of opposing team said that we should learn Mandarin. Not should learn, but example, instead of learning English. Another one is for those who want to do business. Spanish skills can be used in asset for communication. And if you're doing business, in Latin or South America or Central America, knowing how to speak Spanish is a very important skill in your resume.
So you said that English is a very difficult language to learn, and Spanish is an even more difficult to learn.
We're saying that English is a difficult language to learn, yes, and we know that Spanish is also a difficult way to learn, but we're giving them options. This is just an example of life. You can always learn a different language instead of Spanish, but what we're trying to say is we want diversity in our culture. As you said, if you learn more languages, you share the culture with other people, then why not learn more languages instead of English as the official second language? And I assume that you're going to say, they always learn their native language and also their official second language, which is English. But learning 3 languages at once is difficult and not everyone can perform. Yes.
So you said that learning other language would improve our culture, but you also said that we can lose our culture from learning other languages.
Thank you. That is our problem. Thank you for pointing it out. But what we're trying to say here is that we should not just support English as an official second language. And yes, if we do that, we will lose some of our culture. But you also stated yourself that if we use English as second language, we're actually improving our culture. And our final point was that there are way too many students, but not enough teachers, and that will be explained by our third member. Thank you for listening.
Great, so before we go to move on to the critical proposition, 2 teams, please remember that once our timekeeper comprehends one, it means it was 1 minute, and then you guys can start QIing each other. But when she starts task once for the second time, it means it already reached 5 minutes and you cannot QI afterwards.
So what I just said was meaningless.
No. What you say was still counted, but her last QI should not be given at that time because it will already pass 5 minutes. Yeah, exactly.
Thank you for your specific opinion about this motion. With all the evidence and stated by the first and second speaker, we truly believe that we should take English as a second language. But if you don't have enough conviction or reasoning, we'll summarize and rebut some of your points. First off, English is a global language that can connect people from everywhere. So it's basically a worldwide communication tool. It has a lot of platforms like education and economics to develop from. With the English understanding, Vietnam can take it up to the next level. For example, like as stated earlier by a second speaker, Philippines took English as a second language, and according to worldbank.org, it shows a clear dynamic economic growth. English is also now taught by almost all schools in Vietnam or even other countries, and which also attracts other foreign students to come and learn here in Vietnam and also other countries. And also promotes a variety of options for higher education, and as stated from earlier, it shows a clear dynamic growth in the country. Now to rebut some of your points. Vietnam being a top country will lose some of this culture, but if If we decide to keep learning Vietnamese as the main and not adding anything else to it, will it create some inequality between Vietnam and the world? Second of all, English isn't necessarily an official language, but globalization is rapidly growing, and English is already now used by the majority of the population in the world, so nothing's going to stop people from learning English and speak English. English is hard to learn. As mentioned before, this is an opinion and not a clear statistic or fact. With all that said, we truly believe that Vietnam should take English as a second language, and we beg you to propose. Thank you.
We're at the first speaker of opposition, and we'd like to invite the first speaker of opposition. Thank you.
I will begin my speech in 3, 2, 1. So I'm the third speaker from the opposition team, and today I'm here to continue on extending our arguments and rebutting the points. So as you know, nowadays many families want their child to learn English, but since the requirements for this problem is too much, therefore not enough qualified teachers are here. So when teaching English, a teacher has to pay close attention to every student, and this can be quite challenging when dealing with a large class. They need to focus on the accent and how they speak, and how their grammar and many other points. So, and you may argue that a one-to-one teaching is a reliable method, but there are not enough qualified educators fluent in English to accommodate this many students. As students are from different gender to age and backgrounds, they require different approaching methods that is the most suitable for them, and therefore a much personalized education plan is required. And also, as language is used to boost their future and to help them to pursue their future careers. Therefore, we believe that students should be choosing their second language to learn, as learning English, Vietnamese, and their language that they choose to learn is taking up too much time.
You said that there are not enough qualified teachers to teach English for students, but there isn't enough qualified teachers to teach students other languages as well, like Spanish and Japanese. What do you think about it?
If they really want to pursue their careers, they can go to schools that teaching the language specifically, like good schools which teaches German and have plans for the students to go abroad and study. And there's also student exchange programs for them to actually develop their career. So, and also you said that learning English can help their communication. Well, if their plan is to study at closed off countries like China or South Korea, where they protect their citizens and the citizens there don't speak and learn English that often. Therefore, learning English is basically unnecessary for them and is a waste of their time. Yes?
So we're not saying that one-to-one teaching is better. It was actually proved that group learning in language is actually better to exchange their knowledge. What do you think about that?
It is better for them to exchange their knowledge, but if they don't have a core knowledge of the language, which is taught by teachers, then they cannot continue on learning the language. Therefore, they still need teachers to teach them. And you said that for the dynamic growth and not speaking English is an inequality for citizens in Vietnam. But what is their point of learning English if they don't plan on using English in the future?
English will help them make progress in their future, make success. So what do you think about that?
If you don't use English, then learning English as an official language is a waste of time. I said that before. Yes.
Also, what is your teaching qualification? What is your, the qualification of teachers teaching English?
It depends on the students wanting to find the qualified teachers. If they want to find a better education if they want to they can decide on which path of learning language they want to. If they really want to develop their language, they develop their English skills, they can find teachers that have the many famous test scores. So this is the end of my.
Great. I think this is the opposition and would like to invite the high school opposition.
I will begin my speech in 3, 2, 1. I am here to going to show you that we, as the opposition team, have won this motion. This most supports Vietnam taking English as a second language. We support it. We have given you 3 main lines of arguments, which is too many students, not enough teachers. It's difficult for non-native speakers to comprehend the language, and also if you learn English or a new language as in a general, then you are going to lose balance in your native language. For each argument, we support it with evidence, and we also support it with, we also went in depth with our definition. For our opposing team, you went really clear with your arguments. However, some of your arguments were lackluster, and some had even loopholes that even one of our part was able to counteract yours. You also compared a lot, something different from something different, which should be avoided at all costs. So this is why we believe that the opposition team has won this motion. I seize my case.
Please note that during the type stages, we do not use English.
Yes.
I would like to invite the high speaker opposition.
So hi, my name is Michelle. I am the second speaker of my team and also the replier. So during the debate, my opposition team has made many great points with supporting evidence and statistics. But sometimes they have gotten our idea wrong. Like for example, the loss of culture, but it's really just how the government and the people use the language. It's like, so yeah, and also our team has stated some points to support our opinion, which is communication, economic growth, and education. And this is why we strongly believe that Vietnam should take English as its second language, as its second official language. And if the judge really supports our points, then maybe you should take us for the language.